I I don't have the books that Jeremiah the prophet used to discern the 70 years. I'm only told he had books that he discerned. It'd be 70 years. So we use that story, fable of a motion tabled. Sure, we can laugh about it later. Someone had a point they had been struggling to get to. Point blank, point of interest. We can laugh about it in 3, 2, 1. Now, enough time has passed, information amassed in abundance, a point of order, a starting point for order out of concern to prevent chaos. I say there is no turning point, Charlie Kirk. Look at that point. That's all I wrote. Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Do not let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Welcome to, as usual, it's an honor, RJ, the famous Randy from Wisconsin. How you doing, man?
Thanks for the invite.
Man, we got to get up to speed on this point of order thing and see where the Lord is going here. This is a good one here.
Now that we went live,
I hear an echo.
and there's a lag.
And there's a lag. I don't care. Catchy title, but all your streams are exactly the same and are almost never about the title. Well, we'll see. Maybe today it'll be about the title. I'm going to start with this thing. There it is. I have a lot of, screenshots that I wanted to talk about. Most importantly is going to be getting back to many of the early Reconstructionists. Those are the preterist, post-millennialist that people thought I was being rude, saying, hey, quit calling it what I left when the Lord showed me and lifted the veil that the mud flood was Armageddon. We are not Reconstructionist, post-millennial preterist anymore. But people didn't get it. They didn't know it. I've got it all figured out, how to explain all this now. And, you're born in bondage, the Great Society. It was the Freemasons, the Knights Templar. It's going to be easy. It's going to be super easy. I've got to go. I'm going to go in reverse. So, management software, I had to study this. You can't be a warehouse manager and work for Learjet, the Bombardier Corporation, unless you know these kinds of things, unless you're familiar with SAP software and things like that. And the only thing that's going to be the same about my broadcast show's ministry is there's only one person that says, the Lord used me to start the Golden Age past, mud flood was Armageddon movement. There was no teaching on they added 1,000 years. Satan was in the pit before the Lord showed it to me. I was on LSD and mushrooms, and it was a vision, and it was something that took years, decades to come to fruition. Nobody else did it. So everybody that is happy knowing that truth, it came through this ministry. That's going to stay the same because I have the same dates, the same vision, the same interpretations from Daniel that have been there from the beginning, and the Atlanteans and the Toad Houses and the Paul Stoops who claim Christianity and the Trinity, and they're ready to talk about anything else but doctrine. This is going to be the same show. calling them out. Point of order. Hey, what is it that you're ready to die for about Jesus Christ's message? RJ, what are you willing to die for?
Well, when my time's up, yeah.
It's going to be an appointed time, right?
Usually is, regardless of how you recognize it, or if you even recognize it.
See, all of these things started with the Hoover Dam. Finally, they had a Gantt chart, the projects. How were they going to do it? What is the term project management that wasn't even used until 1954 when the United States Air Force created that year, because before it was the United States Army Air Corps. And then all of a sudden they needed the Air Force because it was off they go into that wild blue yonder. See, that's not the same. I mean, I am going to try to inflect to be funny with my words and stuff, but that's just the way the prophet does it nowadays. Hey, whether other people think this is like fun, I know I make it look easy to bring this new message and stick with it, but it's not. It's not always fun to be a prophet. I know that I was telling God, really? Me? You gotta come on. The prophets in the Bible were big heroes, and and look at me, I feel like I've done as much as I can. And that's when the real prophets realize God doesn't ask you if you want to go, hey, you want to go do this? I mean, they're not, very rarely is there somebody going like, hey, here I am, send me. Go, RJ.
But that, the prophets in the Bible weren't treated real well neither.
Hey, I muted my mic while you said that. Did you hear any echo?
Yeah, it's the leg.
Really? Oh, well. Thanks for that, because, yeah, believe me, it's no fun to have gangrene and, prove to the Lord how much you must be willing to suffer for his namesake. But those are the things real teachers count the cost and have to do. We don't get that. So there's the project manager. I looked that up. There's the ratchet effect. Look, there it is. It's a ratchet effect. Something to do with sociology and economics? Huh. The ratchet effect.
In the gear?
It is a little boot shaped like Italy, right? Kicking Sicily over and over. The mechanical ratchet that allows movement one direction and seizes or tightens in the opposite. Related to the phenomenon of scope creep. That's a new one that I had to learn about when I never did get the college degree. I always was one of those guys that they just said, don't worry about it. Just go get this class and, like SAP software, Williamson software for shipping. If you learn that, you'll be fine, because this is after I left the warehouse management of what I'll show was the largest Christian homeschool company in the world. And I was their warehouse mailroom manager, because homeschooling business, as quickly I found out, is a mail order business for God. It's what I thought when I was a post-millennial preterist for all those 35 years doing what the John Birch Society was paying us to do. Convince everybody you need homeschool to learn phonics and math and the truth of history, but their truth of history is a lie. That's the point I'm trying to get to. There is no turning point. There are only points on a straight line in a book that's already been written, RJ.
Yeah, the end from the beginning. Good.
So scope creep is one of those new things. It happens and it causes harm. Like if you just say your mission was to put in a new countertop for a lady It was just straight up, here you go. And she says, you know what? Can you make it a bevel now? Well, I you should put it in writing. You know, that's the world today, because let's see, there's a communication gap. Am I billed more for you stopping to talk to me now about now you want something else? I thought we agreed you only want countertops. It's a mega project.
That's a change order.
And the bigger the project, the bigger the deal. Look, you're already getting $40 million. Would it hurt you to like put another window in here? They're going to say, absolutely, it's going to hurt me. It's going to kill this whole project. If you change it now, we're going to break the contract. Let's write a new contract if you want another window. I couldn't believe the crap I was hearing, but hey, I at that time had 4 kids and a handicapped sister of my wife living in the basement. I had 5 menstruating women at one time. I was dealing with it, baby, 1 second at a time. I don't even know that these things existed. They got mission creep at the Fusion Center during the Las Vegas Super Bowl 58. Can it really be that 58 Super Bowls already? Remember, RJ, when we were young and the Packers were winning the first couple of them? I mean,
yeah, I was there.
That's not ancient history.
Not at the Super Bowl.
Right, we couldn't afford it. But maybe you could. But there was a time when there were only 48 states, and we remember the first Super Bowl. Ancient history, as they would have us believe, isn't that long ago, people. Everything's brand new. So I guess they have 79 fusion centers established after RJ's favorite date, the date that somehow the prophet has ended up saying is a very important date. A point in history, not a turning point, an established fact that they don't leave any pennies on the table. Let's talk about the American Airlines when RJ's microphone is working better. He's an expert on how they don't leave pennies on the table. Comparatively speaking, the millions they got from that American Airlines stock deal was nothing, but they had to have it. They can't leave a penny on the table. And that sounds like racist or something.
Yeah, nothing like the payout. The owner got double dipping on the insurance.
Exactly. But enough to probably pay a couple of their children's trust funds. Here we go. Within recent decades, RJ, see, not ancient history. For us, a decade is just like yawn. SWAT teams have become increasingly militarized. I remember being alarmed when I saw MRAPs, military machine gun vehicles, going down the main street of Ferguson, Missouri to break up a little riot. I mean, we're like, there's some bracket creep. That's an escalation of commitment. I wonder what the future creep is going to end up. But found out with the ratchet effect, they're just going to keep. Well, it's almost like RJ, we're already encompassed about, and Satan and Gog and Magog is only ratcheting up. What am I trying to say? Something like that. This is my algorithm.
What's your concept of being encompassed?
I don't know. I searched these things. I searched known point for Microsoft to get that because I did
3,
that.
verse 19 to 20. By whom also he went and preached to the spirits in prison,
Send me
who
this.
formerly were disobedient, when once the divine long-suffering waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was
I
being
can't
prepared,
understand a
in which
word
a
this
few,
guy's
that is
saying.
8 souls, were saved through water. We see here Joshua, when he died, he went down and preached to the disobedient souls in Sheol. He preached to those people. Why? Why would he preach to people that's already lost, that's already died in their sin? The only thing he could have preached to them is that they are going to get another chance, that they are going to get one more chance.
Wow, that's the dumbest thing.
Reincarnated?
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Oh, it's still doing that.
Yeah. Shake it, baby, shake it.
A chantilly lace and a pretty face, a ponytail hanging
But
down.
he's explaining, his
Rabbit
concept
hole
of the
Israel.
biblical timeline.
Yeah, 14,000 views, and that's twice as many than his subscribers. They prop up the nonsense. So I looked at that. Point is,
Thanks.
wow. For technical reasons, they got to go over. There's the points in geometry. There's the point and element in theory. There's critical points in math, decimal points, point-free geometry. A lot of points. Point programs if you get more points for buying things, points in mortgage, basis points, percentage points, pivots points, points on the compass 32, not 33, dot graphite.
Well, get the point. Yeah.
Pickleball, you can get some points. I for some reason I've never played pickleball, but I want to. I want to be good at it, man. The point. Robert's Rules of Order. RJ, you didn't know anything about it, huh? You ever heard of it?
No.
Parliamentary procedure by U.S. Army officer Henry Martin Robert. Robert's Rules of Order. He lived from 1837 to 1923. The object of Rules of Order is to assist an assembly to accomplish the work for which it was desired. Do you know that Robert's Rules of Order are used by everywhere on the flat earth nation, that they have, your high school class president, your 4-H meetings that I was a part of? I would point of order them to death if they didn't get a second on a motion. You better believe it. That was just me. That's at, if you second that emotion, I think there was a song called that. It's a play on words of like, I move, it's how you hear the people in the Senate talk. Most of us like to hear that southern drawl of, like somebody like Rand Paul's dad. He had that southern drawl thing, make a point in order. Deliberative assemblies. How did it go from America to around the world? Special rules, standard codes, military.
Well, it must have been critiqued. And
everybody loved it. It was a new world order. It was the order for the new world order. The pocketbook. Everybody in the whole reset world was going by it. We're basics. I know I'm scrolling, but I'm just showing everybody did it. And at the end here, it even if it's not this page, it shows that the other countries around the world leading up until 1958, when they started whatever this mass hypnosis of globe Earth and NASA, that's when that started.
Well, the normalization of what to expect, and how, what is accepted.
You see, I hear you perfectly. I don't get any echo or anything. So that's why this whole thing is weird to me. These last couple of weeks, it's weird. So the parliamentary procedure is everywhere. If you're going to have an assembly or an organization, like Satan is going to need something to unite the nations. I don't know where he's going to come up with it, but they have to deliberate, vote, and kind of act like, well, these big powers, white people powers, they got it all figured out, and the rest of the world probably, they had, if you want to join the club, good, or you get beat over the head with it. So it is that Manchester system. I mean, Westminster. Manchester doesn't get enough credit. Here's their history.
Getting back to that video where he was saying how all the white Christians were going to be encompassed in South Africa.
I know.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they honestly, there are still Christians that believe the United States is a light on the hill. That was divinely for God, for them to come here and preserve the Trinity.
All that is good.
Yeah, all that is good, and the fact that if you have to break a few million eggs to get a social gospel where Darwinism can be accepted, and then women can get to vote and then abort their babies and men can't stop it, if that's the world that is their end point, there's no other way except it's going to be Satan's going to be able to convince his mission. Looks like mission's accomplished. We're getting everything done we want. And people like us on the narrow road are going to naturally be mocked, considered fools, because we're fools. No, because their eyes haven't been opened by God. Their ears don't hear Christ calling them. We can't open people's ears. It's
we can attempt to persuade.
All you can do. Yeah. So American procedures, these other, you could just say they're all going to do it. The United Nations does it. They're revising it. I think they didn't have as much on it, but that's where the filibuster and obstructionism all come from. Now, in that, there is a point of order. You raise your hands like this and go, point of order. You have made a mistake. The president has to stop, recognize it. They can just overrule it with 3/5 of the people say, look, I made a mistake. Can I get an override? So all of this way the assemblies run is from here. Points of order and Robert's rules of order and the bylaws. Maybe that's how come everybody was militarized. I say that, RJ, thinking of like the movie Back to the Future, and when we were children, the men from Texaco would come running out in military type uniforms, check your tires, check your oil, show you that, you might need a quart, but no, you're good. Clean your windshields, all for 17 cents a gallon.
Those days
you wanted to buy some gasoline for 17 cents a gallon, you got all those extras. That world is over. But we still look back at that and think that was good. But the guy
wish that we could get what we paid for.
How did the guy from the Maytag repairman and all those years, how did he dress? Like a military guy. He had a uniform on and a cap, and everything was militarized. McDonald's wears uniforms, it's a little weird.
Well, conform with the uniform.
Australia loves it. India loves it. India are white people too, and they want everybody to. They want to make sure that everybody knows that. So I did look for point of order. That's all what came up this morning. Is based on this movie that tries to expose Wisconsin's favorite son, Senator Joseph McCarthy. Yeah, maybe they'll use some point of order.
And privileges and immunities of American citizens, whether they be Protestant or Methodist or Jewish or Catholic, whether they be Republicans or Democrats or anything.
Would you favor the outlawing?
You see those cameras? They didn't have cell phones. We didn't have cell phones. RJ, you were alive. I missed this by a year, but you were alive when this happened.
Of the Communist Party?
I favor the outlawing of the Communist Party as an agency of a foreign government.
You consider them to be the agents of a foreign government?
I do so, yes.
Is that free speech for the United States to outlaw communism and ban the people who say, I don't think that communism is that much different than capitalism? Is that overreach?
Well, it was free speech. None.
Yeah. I think it's a change. It's crazy. Here's another McCarthy one.
In 2 years, Joseph McCarthy links his name to a cause and becomes the best-known senator in the United States.
One communist on the faculty of one university is one communist too many.
So I guess every show's the same, because it would seem that one person in the world, Do Re Mi, has got the vision for Flat Earth Nation, Golden Age past, has continued to work for it, been told by the Lord not to accept anybody that comes on later and says, thanks, Paco, I'll take it from here. It's really Atlantis, or you can believe in speaking in tongues, healing people, 5 gods with green eyes, as long as you believe that there's no one simple answer to where this mudflood and this Armageddon thing came from, but we love it. It finally frees me. I can understand the Bible. Jesus was returning in that generation. But, all of the other stuff, study to show yourself approved. Christ did not come to bring peace, but division, because you need to rightfully divide the truth. All of that's out the window as long as you know he added 1,000 years, and now you can be on YouTube teaching somebody else's theory. Where am I wrong?
It's a multi-headed beast.
It is. It's not what I call fun. If they want to do it and put up with it, they can't even put up with somebody questioning them. These guys, Rushdoony, the Reconstructionist role from the 80s. Salt Paco was there. I worked for these guys in the homeschool movement. I was their coach. I was their warehouse manager. I took all of that homeschooling stuff and made sure it got graded and stuff like that. I started in the grading department when I was still going to Bible college. And it was like I showed in the pictures here. What I've said from the beginning, it was a John Birch thing, stirred up. John Birch paid for our school, gave us the material. I was convinced as anybody that Stonewall Jackson and Robert E. Lee were as better Christians than General Grant and Abraham Lincoln and the South cause. I could have. It's what we taught. It's what they taught, because that's what we believed. We called ourselves preterist. And I'm going to keep these up, and I'm going to go back over that more in detail. The silver certificates, these were made for a reason. They fought about money from the time this starting point of a country was established to get Robert's Rules of Order. And yet now we're supposed to believe, gold, silver, all of that really didn't matter. Whether something was a silver certificate, a gold certificate, as long as it was representative of money, it was good. It was a good enough medium of exchange to get through another day of debt world, where they are going to constantly, consistently rob you. Free the silver. If we could only get back on the silver standard, the gold standard, this or that or the other thing, everything will be fine. Argue, argue, argue. That's what they're going to argue about. But their plan is set. They're Freemasons. They're Jesuits. They're John Birch societies. They are the people who will smile in your face and stab you in the back. They keep changing the coinage acts and everything else. Every country, asterisks, mark the silver certificates. They're reusing the numbers of the silver certificates This means it's a reused number when there's a star on it. I guess you could still spend it. Just rolling on, here's our first Bible verse. I'm looking for point in the Bible. So here's what I got. 3 verses. There is this one in Hebrews chapter 8, verse 1. What the point of what we are saying is this: we do have such a high priest, talking about Lord and Savior, who sat down at the right hand of the throne of the majesty in heaven. That's the point. I'm going to stick to that point. Ezekiel 47, verse 20. On the west side, the great sea shall be the boundary to a point opposite Lebo Hamath. This shall be the west side. When God divided the land for the nations, there was nothing arbitrary. When God said, well, when God used Joshua to say, all the promises of the land have been fulfilled, they were. We don't need people discussing it today going like, well, we know that that's wrong. I got a better idea. They should shut up. They're ruining the point of God's message. Another New Testament one. If you put these things before your brothers, you will be a good servant of Jesus Christ, having been trained in the words of faith and the good doctrines that you have followed. That's the same word, point. At least it came out there, when I looked them up on 2 Timothy 4:6. I think it was in there. Otherwise, I just pulled it out of there. Huh. There's a 2 Timothy 2:9. But anyway, I like that Bible verse. So,
of at least the theories coming from Russia or the Soviet Union. But is that by design, or is that just because that's where the theories were allowed to survive? Or is it also because of the fact that, due to our understanding that we can't trust, again going off the official historical evaluation from the United States, the history of the Soviet Union, now Russia, then perhaps that leaves room for understanding that nothing of our theories is without question. Well, the truth of the matter is, history can always be questioned. History is always being reevaluated. I recall one of my
couple more seconds of looking at the beauties of the Russia that they dug out of the ground. Show the Russia they dug out of the ground, dude. Well, this was interesting too.
States was able to produce during World War II, that when World War II ended, that they just happened to throw it off the side of the ship. And don't you find it even more interesting that when we did the reset barren exploration, recall that the United States began taxing a much greater portion of its citizenry to pay for World War II. And then
they guarding the heroin. So here's a little bit of the tour of Russia.
But they've also survived intact. There's also that everlasting question that we have about what the true origin of a lot of these sculptures, these monuments, really happens to be. Is this actually a structure from our particular civilization, or was it constructed by another civilization? Or is the history as we understand it complete and intact, and there's no reason to question it? Many people will tell you that there are no mysteries that ever survive entirely intact in Russia. And that very fact alone makes this an area that's worth our consideration and our attempts to understand. And
now here's the breakdown. Here is the whole truth, nothing but the unvarnished truth. In 2014, 2015, the Russian movement to expose the United States fake history started. They used a girl who was pushing ayahuasca at the same time I was pushing peyote. And the ayahuasca people wanted you to believe that, look, we've discovered Anatoly Fomenko and that they faked history, everyone. Look at all these fake history. It was called the New Earth Channel. And she was showing, Russia was showing, and then they brought in a couple of other people that were Russians to show St. Petersburg was dug out of the mud. It was the real capital. They tried to prove it was Jerusalem. The Lord showed me in my second vision, boom, no, because I had been working with the rocks, which you jumped on board before the theology, I think, that they were the body parts reserved in judgment. One thing led to another in vision and through confirmation of the scripture. I saw that 1,000 years that Fomenko was trying to push was the golden age of Christ, and that they added that 1,000 years to make people read the Bible wrong, that they were still waiting on Jesus. And so I started a channel in 2016 called Flat Earth Nation de Area Praterita, because in Latin that means golden age past ruled with the Praetorian Guard past type.
Those are some dark ages.
And you were right there. Doug was there. There were some other people at the start. And we can't go back in history and say, no, it didn't happen like that. It happened exactly like I'm saying it happened. And everybody else that jumped on board, John Levy left me messages. Conspiracy R Us left me messages. UAP. Everybody that became big jumped on board. The only flat earthers that were there doing it was myself, Wise Up, and Age of Disclosure. She has since stopped believing in flat earth, and I think the Bible. And we were responding to Roger Spur, Mud Fossil University, and that he had tested some rocks and that they were human. These were exciting times. RJ, we went from 100 to almost 10,000 subscribers. And then I mentioned ivermectin at the wrong time. So goodbye, Mud Flood was Armageddon. And I had changed it, the title of the channel to Flat Earth Nation Golden Age Past, because the De Area Praterita, that Latin was, it's spelled funny. So yeah, it's really doesn't look like it sounds. So changed it. But the rest is history. Now it's a worldwide movement. It's the people who want to teach this wonderful new doctrine that frees the Bible, but they want to be able to fellowship with ecumenically, with charismatics, with enlightened charismatic Roman Catholics, with people that worship on Saturday. There's no doctrine that is something to divide over. That's my problem, because scripture is for dividing.
Yeah. Other than the four necessary items.
Yeah, there's ways that we are told how to live. The simple fact is, like Toad House 7, he makes a big deal. Well, he's been doing this for 10 years and he's not married, so he's just, probably just lonely and doing something. Lonely and doing something. This looks like fun to him. I'm in a university exposing that what they were talking about in the 50s has happened, and this school was put in charge of it. It's run by militant lesbians that were given the job by people recommended that were on the Lolita Express. That's what I came here to do, to expose it. I've done it. I've got 3 full-time jobs going on it. To maintain 2 of them, I have to prove that 90% of the people here are not as smart as me. But that other 10% is what helped me. I was 40 years old before I realized I wasn't always the smartest person in the room. And that there were some people smarter than me, and that actually some of them were trying to trick me because they thought I couldn't figure out how smart that, I was being tricked. That's part of learning. Not many wise, not many are called to be teacher. You should count that cost, people. If you think you wanted to do what I did and bring this forward and be able to sit here and say, I don't care how many people tell me I should worship the Trinity and that I didn't do it and I have an attitude, you better believe I have an attitude to protect the reputation of Jesus Christ, who manifested, lived, died, and was the first to be resurrected. And by faith, I believe this is not my home. And I know there is a light waiting for us that mysteriously we will have to be metamorphosed to be able to live in it happily for eternity. I'm not going to apologize for that. This is an honor that I don't want to rub in people's faces that, like, look, yeah, it's me. But too bad. It's not you. It's not them. God didn't call them on their sister's porch to put them in the temple and say, I'm this light. You're going to do this. Well, either this is fun to me or I really am that afraid of that light. So I'm going to stick with it. People are going to have to make that decision. I'm doing this for fun, or I'm really this afraid of God. And that I have no other choice but to do this for the rest of my life. So they can believe what they want. I know I'm going to go to the Bible always. Not Enoch, not this, that, and the other thing. That bugs them too bad. RJ, anything you want to wrap it up with? I got a busy day.
And I also
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up then. Thank you. And we're going to keep working on the sound issues. We know everything's going to work out the way God has planned it. The big step for you right now, people, is to realize we're not waiting to be encompassed about. We're more than halfway through the last 45 years. We are encompassed about. And it's going to blow up. The cities are going to go, and you better be ready to give up your cell phone and live the rest of your life in obedience to Christ, running for your life because they're going to want to kill you. It's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon, and that explains your orphan brain. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakamain. Adios. I love to say goodbye that way, but it is